So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of What's Happening in Travel. It is Thursday, March 18th, 2021, and I'm here with my buddy.
Bushro.
And I am Kerwin. And if I sound sleepy, it's because I just got up. I can't get used to this daylight saving time. It's really annoying. Besides, I had a backache, so that's why. If I sound sleepy, that's the reason. Hopefully, I'll wake up before the episode. And how are you doing today, Kusho?
I'm all right.
Excellent.
It's a nice cold day.
Yeah, it's 52 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like cold Celsius.
Perfect.
No, it's too cold. I have my jacket. I was trying not to put the jacket out, but I'm like, it's cold. So, and yesterday was 80 degrees. It's crazy, but we had a front come through and the weather just went crazy. So what do you have as your background today, Kusha?
I have the new 777-9 landing in Seattle at Everett after a test flight.
Oh, cool. Are we ever going to see that with passengers on board?
2024, I think. 2023.
2020. That's Lufthansa, huh?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So,
I'm pretty sure they're gonna get a good deal on it too, right?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Oh boy.
Maybe later on when the orders start, when they dry up.
Yeah.
But
Is Lufthansa the only one signed up for it so far?
No, they have about 6 carriers.
Oh, okay.
A lot of them have delayed them, like Cathay Pacific. But BA has them. Emirates has them. Etihad has Qatar. I think, is it ANA as well? And Singapore Airlines.
Yeah. Well, 2023, huh? Yeah, hopefully the industry will start to pick up as it seems to be.
And hopefully they will get it right.
Yeah. Well, they've had a lot of time to figure it out, and hopefully they've learned.
Yep.
From all the screw ups that happened before. We'll see. All right. And I have the A350. This was taken at Farnborough when it was introduced a few years ago. Or maybe that was Paris. I can't remember now. One of them. And it was doing a flyby, and I took this picture as it was coming over. All right. And the reason why I have the A350 is because we have a story about the A350. So this is going to be the aircraft, other, and airport episodes. So because we talked about all the airlines in episode 73. So we're going to jump right into it. And the first story we have is talking about the leasing industry, because most of the airlines, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar, they don't really buy their planes outright. They come through leasing companies, and there's a lot of these leasing companies. So what's the update that you have, Kusha?
So much like car leasing, automobile leasing, aviation leasing is a huge business. And there have been two larger than most competitors. There's Air Lease, that's AER, based of all places in Ireland.
Oh, well, of course.
And then I guess the favorable tax regimen compared to the rest of the EU. And there's GCAS, which is the General Electric Capital Aviation Services based in the US.
There's also ILFC, right?
Well, it used to be, but that was taken over by AerCap in 2013.
Okay.
It was headed by Stephen Udvar Hazy.
Museum guy.
So yeah, say that again.
That's the museum guy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, well, AerCap and GCAS have merged last week.
Wow.
To form an industry, and as the word they used is a behemoth. It's going to be 4 times as large as the nearest competitor, which is called Avalon, which is a very unusual name for a subsidiary of the Chinese HNA group, which includes Hainan Airlines.
Hmm.
Um, but this is news because this could trigger rapid consolidation of the air leasing industry because it's been pretty fragmented in the past. But
Yeah.
Air Lease, for instance, has taken over 3 companies starting in 2005 with Debis Air Finance, in 2009 with Genesis Lease, and in 2013 with ILFC.
Yeah.
So this GCAS acquisition accounts for the fourth merger that Air Lease has done in the last 15 years. So together, they're going to have about 2,000 aircraft in their inventory, 900 engines, and I didn't realize this, 300 helicopters.
Oh.
So the CEO of AirCap, of course, says that this is not about scale, but about significant revenue, cash flow, and earnings growth.
Whatever.
Yeah. But there probably was a background reason for this because GE is under a lot of pressure from the stock market because
Mhm.
their stock prices tanked. And they have been asked, or they have been essentially ordered to shed a lot of debt. And so by doing this, they accomplish that.
Hmm.
They become the largest shareholder in Air Lease with AirCap rather, with a 46% stake in the new company. And they also get to nominate 2 directors to the board.
Hmm.
Another important reason that this was so important to AirCap is that GE has a lot of narrow body leases coming online in 2022 to 2024. And that's important because the industry is expected to recover by that time.
Right.
So the narrow body purchases will be much in demand by airlines seeking to cut their costs because they're
Yeah.
just more efficient than older aircraft. And in line with the trend towards more narrow body operations again versus like wide body, which are just too big to fill in this current economic environment.
Okay. That makes sense.
So they expect shareholders to approve this deal in the May AGM, the annual general meeting. But what I think is important is that they require antitrust approval from about 20 countries.
I
Because
was thinking
remember,
about
these
that.
companies
Yeah.
lease aircraft to airlines around the world.
Hmm.
So all of them have to agree that this is not anti-competitive.
Right. Which makes
But the CEO of AirCap is very confident, as he says, it will get them. And they expect to have the deal closed in the fourth quarter of this year, 2021.
okay.
But this, as I said earlier, puts a lot of pressure on Avalon, which now becomes the second largest because as a subsidiary of the HNA group, the Hainan Airlines group, which is in a lot of trouble itself, they will almost be forced to try and mimic these economies of scale and merge with other companies. But there will be a shakeout in the industry,
Yeah.
but not analysts are too upset about it for some reason
Uh,
because they think it was needed and overdue. So
yeah.
we will have to see.
But in terms of like the antitrust thing, I thought that was significant because what this means is that um, this company can buy most of the planes
Yeah,
and
and
then
raise the rates.
raise the rates to the airlines, right? Um,
Yeah,
yeah, something smells a little bit here, but
unless there's some sort of guarantee, but those, I
it's a
mean,
free
those can
market,
never be
right?
trusted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Of course, as the listeners, people are like, well, why should I care about this? Well, if it costs the airlines more to lease the planes, then they
It's
have to
hitting
get,
you.
yeah, they got to get the money from somewhere. So the airfares are going to be higher at some point.
Yep.
So that's how this affects you. So you might think it's like, well, this is stupid. Why are we even telling you about it? Well, that's why.
Yeah, these companies are not doing this through the goodness of their hearts.
Exactly. And it's just like I don't know. Sometimes you hear um, in the industry, people say, "Oh, the airplane flies to one place," and then the I guess the lessor goes and picks it up because the airlines haven't paid.
Yes.
And this is how it affects you because then you can't get back to where you go because you can see the plane out there, but it's no longer belongs to the airline, so they can't use it.
And this has been happening a lot.
Yes.
So where the aircraft is effectively held hostage
Right.
in
Yeah.
foreign country. I know there was a Jet Airways 777 in Amsterdam that was held, I think, for well over a year, and then KLM essentially bought it
Yeah.
for pennies on the dollar, as they say.
So can you imagine if you're the pilot? You know how they repossess cars.
Yes.
We should have a show about repossessing airplanes. I think that should be a very funny show, right? You
I
see the
guess it's much less than cars, but
but yeah, but the
mm,
pilot shows up and he's like, hand it over.
so
That would be interesting to know. But yeah, so it's good to get a little background about this because it's not the everyday thing that you think about, right? As a consumer,
yeah.
you just show up and you jump on the plane and you're like, oh, it's good. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background, and so now some of the airlines, if they have their own money or their own financing, they can finance their own planes. But for the most part, it goes through a leasing company.
Which is much cheaper for airlines that don't have a lot of capital outlay possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Exactly. And then, like Krisha is saying, they're based in Ireland because that's one of the places that give really good tax breaks on these airplanes. And that's why you see a lot of these airplanes will have the,
EI
is it EI
registration. Yeah.
registration because they're registered in Ireland and then they do the tax thing. And then it goes off to the country where it's supposed to go, and eventually they change to a local registration on the plane. And as we're talking about registration, when you see airplanes, every single airplane has a registration number
A
and
unique
a unique
registration.
registration number, and the first letter or the first two characters, which is usually a number and a letter, belongs to that particular country. So the United
Right.
States is N, Canada is C, the UK is
G.
G. I was thinking B, but B is China.
China.
And like Jamaica is 6Y.
Okay. Then
Singapore is like, I think they're 9D.
9V. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So whenever you go around the world, you'll see the registrations. If you're watching a movie, the movies are always the good ones because Mexico is XA, and you're watching the movie and you see a helicopter and it's XA, and it's based in like the movie is based in some foreign country. You're like, nope, they're in Mexico. Or there, yeah, and if you see it all the time. So, and what
Yep.
you can do with these registration numbers that you can go in and put it on the internet and search, and it'll tell you. Most of them are public, and it'll tell you all about registration, like how old is the airplane, who owns it, and things like that.
Who's owned it in the past? Because it's amazing how many times aircraft and helicopters change owners.
Yep, it's
So,
it's quite amazing. So there's
so,
another trivia for you this morning.
so
Is that all you had on the leasing
yes,
company? All right.
yes.
Um, and I have the Airbus A350 in the back, and I think this is the 1000.
No,
Uh,
it's a 900.
is it? I was trying to see if
Yep.
it's, oh, it's only two tracks. Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to look at it to see if it was one or two. Yeah, because when they had it at the show, it wasn't the 1000 wasn't
Mm.
launched yet. This was the 900.
So
All right. So Krisha's going to tell us about freighters, because freighters, as you can tell, is a thing now because
it's
of
a huge
coronavirus, right?
business.
Matter of fact, a lot of the airlines are staying afloat just because they're carrying cargo. All right, what do you got?
So Boeing is the undisputed king of freighters. From the 747 to the 767 now, and of course the 777, which is the 200 LR, which is the 200 fuselage with the 300 ER wing.
Okay.
So they have sold 202 777 freighters versus the Airbus offering of the 330 and 28. So it's like almost a tenfold advantage that Boeing has in
Okay.
freighter sales. So Airbus has, I think, long tried to bolster sales of the 330, which is the only real cargo offering they have to the state as a new build. And now they are targeting Boeing with a potential 350 freighter. So the Airbus 350 being converted to a freighter.
Mm-hmm.
Now the 350, the 900 is essentially a 777-200 competitor. But what I found intriguing is that they are not just remarketing the 350-900. They are extending the 350-900 by a little bit, but not as long as the 350-1000.
Oh, interesting.
The details are a little sketchy right now because Airbus is doing this behind the scenes. They are gauging airline interest in a potential Airbus 350 freighter, and they're looking for 50 firm orders before they launch. So there's clearly some reason why this is going to be an entirely new aircraft, but not a new aircraft. Because it's going to have a length that's in between the 350-900 and the -1000. But it's not that simple. Despite an expected $2 to $3 billion US dollar developmental cost, what they have to overcome is the technological barrier of cutting out a cargo door. Because remember, the fuselage of a 350 is composite.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, cutting out a section is a very challenging job. But then I thought about, then how do they do the windows?
Right.
But clearly, I'm not getting the entire picture.
It's a different
So
structure, smaller.
it's a different structure, right? But the technology should be the same, right?
Yeah.
But clearly I'm missing something. So that's one big hurdle that they have to overcome. It's how to preserve the structural integrity of composites and how to cut a composite fuselage accurately and safely.
So why didn't they just not do a conversion and just make them from scratch?
Well, that's the problem, right? That's
Well,
the problem. How do you construct that?
but I'm confused, right? Because
Remember that,
but if you're converting it, I could understand because there's
but
structural,
see, they're not converting it,
right?
right?
If they're
Because,
making it from scratch, and it shouldn't be a
right,
problem.
that's what you would think.
Just design it with a hole in the side.
Well, apparently that's a very simplistic way of looking at things because it's not that easy um,
So
to do this.
it
As I
sounds
said, Airbus has been very sketchy about details, but if they get the required 50 orders, I guess we will have more information. But I'm very curious to know why um, they just can't remarket the 350-900 or the 1000.
so. This just sounds to me like they're doing a little marketing. So,
Meaning, but they are.
um, well, right. They want people to start talking about it, Because Airbus is a very
They were-
smart, but they're a very smart company, right? So it's like, how do you not know how to put a hole in the side of the plane so make it still structurally sound? So come
not
on.
a hole exactly, but yes.
Well, you know what
So
I mean. All right, they built the 330 freighter, so it's not that they don't know how to build
no,
freighters.
no, no, no. 330 is aluminium, right? So
But,
that's been
but,
done for years.
but still, right? I mean, but Airbus is all because I saw that at the nose of the 330 freighter, it's different.
Right. The
And
underside.
yeah, it has like a little belly thing, and it has something to do with how the landing gear is positioned because it's
Yeah.
lower.
And you know why that is?
Well, tell us. I read it, but I want you to say it. Go.
So,
I thought it was
I mean,
fascinating.
I've noticed it. I doubt very few other people have.
Oh, all
But
the
if you look at a 330 or a 340,
uh-huh.
it's not exactly horizontal. It always has a low stance. The nose is a little higher
Yes,
than the tail.
it is.
The, and because this is a freighter, they cannot have a sloping aircraft. Now, it's very, very slight. But given that these pallets roll, they had to have it horizontal.
Exactly.
So, in order to raise the nose of the aircraft, they had to lengthen the nose wheel. So, to lengthen the nose wheel, they had to increase the space allocated for the nose wheel when it retracts into the fuselage.
Which is good.
So, there wasn't enough space for that. So, that's why they had to build that fairing, which is right under the cockpit
So it
on
looks a
the
little
underside of a 330
so it looks a
freighter.
little pregnant.
Yeah.
It is quite funny how it looks. You're like, there's a little belly under the plane. um
So,
it's kind of the same reason why on the Boeing planes it has a little bow where the undercarriage is.
the
Uh,
bow?
yes,
What do you mean?
if you look underneath the 777s,
Uh huh.
it has that little extra piece. So it's not completely flat.
No, I don't
Shift
know
your
what
head
you're
a
talking
little
about.
bit. Uh,
Left or right?
left.
Uh,
No, you can't see it on there. But the next time you look at the plane, you'll see what I mean. It's a little piece that's out. It looks fatter in essence. It's only because it has to accommodate the landing gear under there.
yeah. Okay.
But it's not as
But
pronounced
it's
as
perfectly streamlined, though.
yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all aerodynamic and all that. It's not as pronounced as the 350
Three,
or the
the
330.
330. Yeah. The
Yeah.
330 freighter.
Yeah. But so I just think that Airbus is just feel like, oh, we want to get in the news, so let's push this out there so people actually start talking about the 350 freighter because obviously they're gonna figure it out, right? And
Yeah.
obviously it's gonna be awesome because they're Airbus and they know
But
how to do this.
I'm sure Boeing is not very happy about this at all,
Of course
though
not.
they have to expect it. They
It's a
have to.
it's a competitor, and we know who's gonna buy the first one.
So now there's talk about Boeing, about this ploy by Airbus being forcing Boeing into developing the 777-8X,
Mm-hmm.
which would be the uh, natural development of the 777-200
Okay.
freighter.
Yeah.
And given Boeing's strained resources right now, that may not be something that is feasible in the near term. But Boeing may have no choice. So this may
Competition,
be a
of
very, very smart strategic move on the part of Airbus.
course, competition is good for the soul.
Yep.
You got to do it,
Yep.
right? Otherwise, we don't get any innovation.
So, I mean, you see it in cars, right? Because
Yeah.
Mercedes, Benz, and BMW, and then look what Lexus and Infiniti and Acura did to them. They made them even better.
Yeah. And Boeing will just whine, but they laid off a bunch of people. Well, whine, whine is a kind of a good word because like an engine, right?
Look what they
But
did to the Bombardier CS300.
yeah, yeah. So
They
they
whined and bitched and moaned about it, and look what success it's got since then.
exactly. So they just have to do something. Maybe they can go hire all the people that they got rid of, uh, and
Rehire them, you mean?
rehire them and figure it out. I mean, that's just how it is. Right? You're trying to cut cost and all that, but innovation is still going on, and you got to keep up because if you don't keep
Yep.
up, in a few years, you'll have nothing to compete, and everybody would buy an A350 freighters. But it was kind of silly for them to think that they would have the market forever.
True, true.
And I'm
And
sure
Boeing is a smart company. I mean, look at the products they make.
yeah,
I mean, except for the rushed 737 Max, they're amazing.
yeah. I mean, they've made some stupid errors and probably egotistical leaders.
Yep.
Because everyone is always like, we're the biggest, we're the this, and I'm like, I don't care if you're the biggest. I just want you to make a product that I'm proud of. But we're not sitting in the boardrooms when they have these meetings. All right.
So stay tuned.
Yes. But so the further will be. Did they say when they would have it available?
No. It all depends on when they get their 50 orders.
You mean once they figured out how to put a hole in the side of it?
Well, that too. That too.
Alrighty. Okay, so we're switching gears slightly. We're going to just talk about. We've talked about the IATA Travel Pass or some type of travel pass at least the last 3 episodes. What's the latest now?
And well, this was just sort of an update.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, this IATA Travel Pass seems to be gaining traction among the world's airlines.
Yeah.
And from my preliminary research, if you can call it that, this is by far the most trialed travel pass in the world. So I got a list of the airlines testing it currently. Mm-hmm. There's Qatar, there's Air Serbia, there's ANA in Japan, Singapore Airlines, Gulf Air Baltic, Malaysia Airlines, Rwanda Air in Africa, Air New Zealand, Copa in Central America, Emirates, Etihad, the IAG group, which is BA, Vueling, and Iberia, and soon to be Aer Lingus, and Qantas. So they've got a pretty established
group.
Yes, testing it out.
Makes sense.
So I can't help but think that this is going to be the dominant travel health certificate app.
Well, it makes sense because IATA is the one that controls thematic.
Right, the world's airlines.
Yeah. So and thematic is the system that holds all the rules and regulations for entering a country, including health and visa. So
because if you're watching the BBC of late, the last 2 days, this has been a headline story for them. How Europe is very strongly considering requiring this as like almost a mandate that passengers have to fulfill the requirements of these travel apps before they're allowed to board.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why they're making such a big deal about it now. Well, I guess it's because of coronavirus, right? But
yes. But it's all because of coronavirus.
Yeah, but we've always airlines have always checked this stuff. People think that it's not because they're just walking through, but it's because the places that they're traveling to doesn't have any health requirements. They come into United States, there are no health requirements. There's like a tuberculosis, but only if you're migrating or immigrating to the United States. But people don't think about it. If you go into Canada, they don't look at you and go,
is your yellow fever certificate.
Right. So you don't need all that stuff. But if you go into countries, some countries in Africa, not all, some countries in South America, not all, you do, and some in Asia, you do require malaria shots and, all these kind of shots and the yellow fever and things like that. So people haven't thought about it. This is probably, I guess coronavirus is probably one of the things that every country requires something from someone, whether you have a vaccine or you've had it or whatever the requirements are. And so they're making a big deal out of it, but this is something they should have done a long time ago. They should have come up with, my yellow card is tattered. They should have come up with something to handle this. And I assume that they're working on something that will be global. And so
I hope so. I really hope so.
Ideally, what would happen is that you go to your doctor, you get the thing, and the doctor accesses this database and uploads all the information into this database. So I, as a patient, don't touch it because you don't want me to
Right.
as a patient. So only the doctor should have access to this thing, whatever this thing is.
You as a traveling passenger have to upload this information to the appropriate location.
All right, and that's stupid because it shouldn't be like that.
Why?
Well, because I can fake it.
Well, there has to be some.
What's going to stop you from faking it? They need to.
I know you brought this up earlier.
Yeah. And that's why if the doctors do it, it's fine. They just upload
It's not that easy to get a hold of your doctor to do that. I mean, everyone says that on TV. Ask your doctor if this is right for you. It is not that easy to do that. The most aggravating ads ever.
That's fine. And why should I ask my doctor if it's right for me? Why are you marketing drugs to me? I don't care what drugs it is. Market it to my doctor. Yeah, it's really stupid. And they make a lot of money off of this, the TV stations.
Being so bombarded with these ads.
Yeah, we're going off on a tangent, but yes, I agree with you. It's so annoying, especially when I go visit my mom and we watch daytime TV. I'm like,
oh God,
I don't need that drug, Mom. You don't need that drug. And so it's funny. My mother called me. She was like, I'm not feeling too well. Can I try this? I'm like, you were watching TV, weren't you?
And they're so inane.
Yeah.
All these happy couples holding hands and
yeah. And now,
but anyway,
it's getting really weird because with all the diversity thing, it's always like a Black person and a white person. And I'm like, okay, how about two Black people? I don't understand. And I'm going off on a tangent, but this is really annoying. But so the whole thing with this though is, I was like, yes. So it needs to be done by a medical professional, and they can do this.
No, I don't think that's practical. Because are you going to call your doctor every time you want to travel and you need a negative COVID test? Or call?
No, but
how are you going to do it?
But somebody needs to be able to administer that negative COVID test. I know they're putting it in our hands, so we can do it ourselves. But it needs to be done by whatever facility. So whatever facility is administering this,
they issue the original certificate.
Right, but they need to be, when they issue that certificate, it needs to go up to the IATA system and say, yep, Kerwin is good to go. Kusha is good to go.
See, would you trust them? I wouldn't.
Yes, because I have the test as well, right? So I have that, and I'm not throwing my paper away because God forbid my phone
shouldn't.
Work.
We should not.
I can't fly because my phone isn't working, or my battery died or something.
Yeah.
So,
but then how do you know the lab isn't a fly-by-night organization, right? I mean,
well, we're gonna have. I mean, there has to be some level of trust.
Trust, right?
So, we have to trust that. Well, it's not always Quest Diagnostics, but if you're in some foreign country where it's just, or actually here in the U.S., where people are just irreputable because they want it. But this is what IATA needs to think about, and I hope they're thinking about this. I'm sure they're thinking about it, right?
They have to.
Yeah, but you can't trust passengers. You just can't.
No.
I mean,
it's not just passengers; it's people.
Yes.
Right.
You just can't. I mean, the guy showed up on the flight to Hawaii and said he didn't have coronavirus, and he did. The other guy jumped on the plane. He said he didn't have coronavirus, and he did. And somebody had to help him on the plane, and he died. And in fact, possibly infecting all the people that was on that flight. So
a few people ruin it for everybody.
Exactly. So I hope. Sorry about the dog.
Well, that sounds professional.
I know, he barked at well, see, that's what the dog thinks about it. Oh my goodness. All right. So these if you guys are listening, these are the concerns that we have in terms of this travel pass. It's a good idea, but you got to make sure it's foolproof for the people around the world that are going to try to get over. All right. What do we have?
I think that's all the topics we had for this.
No, we have one more.
We do?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So
that you're going to make fun of, I'm sure.
Well, of course, everybody wants to go electric. See, this would actually be a good thing for hydrogen because the buses are hydrogen, right? But
Yep.
anyway, we've been talking. The whole industry is trying to be more green, quote unquote. But as usual, we have these electric trucks coming out. So, Kusho, tell us what's going on in Airbus and electric trucks.
So a few, is it weeks or months ago, we talked about Newark transitioning to electric shuttles between terminals.
Yes.
And you made a lot of fun about it because I got so excited about it. Well, here's another example. De-icing trucks.
Uh-huh.
So not very common in the tropics, but
Thankfully.
ubiquitous in the north and southern hemispheres, extreme north and extreme southern hemispheres. So there's a company called Aeromag, which is based in Montreal in Canada. And they are a company that specializes in, as they call it, integrated de-icing ops. In the last 5 years, they have de-iced more than 50,000 aircraft a year.
Wow.
So they are a worldwide leader in de-icing trucks. And what they have done is that they have now started to test an electric truck that was designed and manufactured by a company called Vestergaard, which is based outside of Copenhagen in Denmark. And it supposedly has 87% less greenhouse gas emissions than a traditional diesel-powered truck. Now, this was another thing that got me. Why is it only 87 and not 100% lower emissions? There's something that is not quite complete in this Aviation Week article that I read about this. But they're, as I said, testing this electric truck in Montreal right now. It's supposed to reduce carbon dioxide emissions per truck per year by 35 tons with this conversion from diesel to electric. But what really got me is that this truck is now equipped with, this is Aeromag's marketing, talking about a new radar system for nozzle purity, for a nozzle, that perfectly positions it at an ideal distance on the aircraft for optimal glycol application. So glycol is the main, ethylene glycol is the main ingredient for de-icing. And I had no idea there was so much technology involved in just that nozzle that sprays the aircraft with that fluid. And what is even more impressive is that Aeromag has devised a means to recycle most of the de-icing fluid that is sprayed on an aircraft and is wasted essentially as it flows off. And they can recycle it back to more than 99.5% purity, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's the stuff that goes on the ground, right?
Yes. So they hardly ever do it at gates. You invariably have to go to a certain location to get de-iced before you take off. Yes.
And most of the airports that are properly set up, they just have a pad and all the planes just go through that pad.
And take off as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's very cool to watch.
Yeah. So, but again, I thought this was a positive development. But again, I don't know why. Am I missing something? Who is going to generate all this extra electricity that we're going to need to power all these extra electric everything?
It's going to come from the air, for sure.
It better, right? From wind, solar, and what else?
Yeah, and that's the thing with electric, right? Is that electricity has to come from somewhere. We saw that we had that issue in Texas.
Yes.
So they have to figure out how do I know I get it, right? I get why we need to do this, but we need to we can't take the energy from one place and use energy in another place so we're gonna have to plug these things in.
Exactly. But I
So
guess it's the same with hydrogen, right? You have to produce it. So
right.
that uses electricity. So I
So
guess it's six of one, half dozen of the other.
yeah. So then does it balance out?
Apparently,
Are we
it's
using
more
less?
cost effective, right, to use
Are we
electricity
but
than
how expensive?
hydrogen.
Yeah, but how expensive are these trucks? So when you look at the whole thing, right? So let's say you have this truck right now, which is using gas, right? And it costs you $10. By the time I upgrade the new truck or buy the new truck and plug it in and do all that, is it going to cost me $7 or is it going to cost me $12?
Well, they conveniently left that out, but I guess you could find out, right? If you go to the Vestergaard and do enough research on the cost of an electric truck, but just based on the examples we have with electric cars, they
Mhm.
are more expensive out the gate.
Yeah, and
So
you have to I know people who have them, and they had to modify the house so
yes,
they could put their plug thing out there, and now the cars are plugged into it, and
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, so there is
infrastructure
there's
requirements.
infrastructure requirement. You're total, and we talked about the long way up yesterday on the previous episode, where they had to install these power things all along the way, which is good because they're there now for future.
Yeah.
They were done by Harley Davidson, so I have to give them credit for that. But yeah, so I get where we're heading, but it's costing us to get there, and I think people are not seeing that.
Yeah, but it would cost us anyway, right? For anything.
It would, but it might be costing us more. And I don't know if it balances out in the end. I don't think anyone has sat down and really, looked at it and said, okay, we are saving $1 over 10 years, we will save $10 million. I don't know what it is, but
But those numbers are so wildly inaccurate
yeah,
anyway,
they're making
right?
money.
It's just a number that sounds good.
Yeah, they're making
That
money.
is put out.
It's for marketing.
Are we cynical or are we cynical?
Well, we're just cynical. Well, it's
But
I hate hype. I don't want hype. I want stuff that really works and stuff that we can say, oh wow, yeah, that electric truck is really saving the environment. You know, I don't have to go.
so
I don't have to go take down half of the forest so I can burn them to create power so you can plug in the electric truck.
so maybe one of your audience members is a Vestergaard employee in Denmark and can explain why it's only 87% more efficient and
All
not
right,
100%.
I will try to tag them on it. It's Vesticard, right?
You
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that whenever I promote these, I can tag them and say, hey, we talked about this, and then maybe we can have a Vestigard guy come on or girl and see what's going on.
So it doesn't look that different from a regular truck, just based on the picture they had, a regular de-icing truck.
Yeah,
But
it's
I'm
similar.
amazed at the radar technology that
Yeah.
goes into the nozzle.
I've seen the nozzle do certain things, but I didn't realize it had all that fancy stuff in it.
Yeah,
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 yeah. De-icing
because
is
it's always an operator who
yeah,
controls it.
yeah.
So
Thankfully, when I worked on the ramp in DC, and we never had to de-ice anything. So I never learned how to de-ice, but it's not fun. It just makes a mess, and then the little thing have to come around and clean it all up. And when you work outside in the ramp, I mean, God bless the people who work on the ramp in cold weather.
yep, amazing.
Yep,
You have to love that job to do it.
and it's a fun job. It
It's also
really
hard, right?
it is very hard. You
In the
work your
heat, in the
back off.
rain, in the
Yep,
cold.
and you have those uncomfortable shoe with the metal thing on the toes because you don't want stuff to drop on your feet.
Oh,
You
is
get
that right?
yeah. Delta had a requirement that you had to have a metal toe shoe
Okay.
on the ramp. So which is why when I see some of these guys wearing like sneakers and stuff, I think now they're making sneakers with metal toes. So you said so they're a little more comfortable, but it's those darn boots that you had to wear on the ramp because if something falls on your foot, you don't want to lose your toes. And then you have to jump in the bin, and people are falling out of the bin because the distance of a 757 bin to the ground is about, I think it's about 2 or 3 stories. It's pretty high. Or maybe it's maybe about 2 stories. But if you
high enough, right?
yeah, if you fall out of the 757 bin, you may break a leg. So it's quite dangerous on the ramp. But I enjoyed it. I was actually one of my fun jobs. You get to hate it after a while just because it's backbreaking. But
Keeps you fit though.
it does keep you
I
fit.
bet.
I was quite fit when I used to do that job, but I'd be so tired when I get home. I couldn't do anything yet because you're lifting bags all day, and it was a thankless job.
Yeah, because no one appreciates what you do when
No,
you think about it.
right? And then occasionally I had to bring somebody's bag in a box because their old suitcase opened on the flight and everything is out of it, and then they're complaining to the airlines that we missed. Someone's like, no, your suitcase was old. The lock was bad, and you should not have put that suitcase in there in the first place. But you can't really tell customers that you go, I'm so sorry. If you want to make a claim, go with the baggage claim and make a claim. All right.
So
I rambled. Is that it for this story?
yes.
All right, very cool. Wow, that was kind of interesting, reminiscing about my my ramp days. Oh God. All right, cool. So that's all we have for you for today. It is a short episode, although it's not really short. I think it's maybe about 45 minutes. We can turn a 10-minute episode in an hour. It's easy.
But then you lose viewers if you
I-
fluff it up too much.
No, well, it's not fluffing. I mean, all the stuff
No, that's true. That is true.
actually quite good, right? But now we're fluffing. No, just kidding. So, thanks you for listening to, I think this episode 74.
No, it is 74. I'm keeping track now.
You're keeping
because
track.
clearly I'm the more responsible one.
That's okay. We need someone to be more responsible. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, and I need to check. I think I had gotten a comment. Let me check real quick. No. Okay, no, that's the other one. Nope. 737, good days. No, I know we have one, but I can't find it, so I'm gonna have to use it. Sorry, I should have been a little more prepared.
We can talk about it next time.
Yeah, let's talk about it next time because I don't think I have that one here. Yeah, no, I don't think I have the comment. All right. So remember, if you have a comment, just email us feedback@passrider.com. Or you can go to passrider.com/WHIT and listen to the episodes, and you can click on the contact button and send us a message. So remember, we are on Spotify, we're on Amazon Music, Google Music.
Music?
Yeah, Google. Well, it's called Google Podcast.
Okay.
And actually a few people listen on Google Podcasts, and Apple iTunes is a big one. And if you actually want to sponsor the show, just send an email to feedback@passrider.com, and we can talk about that. And if you need us for aviation business consulting, we are available. Feedback@passrider.com or passrider.com/WHIT. That's it.
Thank you for listening.
Exactly.